everyone, I'm Kaye. Welcome to my channel. Today I decided to switch up my backdrop a little bit and do a full face of makeup do's and don'ts. I feel like I get questions all the time of people saying, I feel like I'm doing things right, but it just doesn't stay on. So I am going to be showing you steps you might be doing wrong and how to fix them as well. And by no means am I trying to makeup shame anyone. The beauty of makeup is that there are no rules at all whatsoever. You can do your makeup however you want, but there are a few tricks and tools that you can learn that will help you along that way. So the first thing that I feel like a lot of people tend to do wrong when it comes to makeup is no prepping. Listen, girls, even if you have super oily skin, you still need a prep for that, whether that's a primer you're using or a gel moisturizer, and especially if you're dry, please put a moisturizer on first. So this one's perfect for my skin type. I have combination skin, so sometimes I'm oily, sometimes I'm dry. This one works perfectly for me underneath makeup because it's not too greasy or anything like that. It is the Glow Recipe Watermelon Glow Pink Juice Moisturizer. I love this stuff. I swear by it. I am just going to put it on one side of my face. This will be the good side. This will be the not good side. And then I'm going to prime. This is the e.l.f. Poreless Putty Primer. I love this stuff. Let's jump into foundation. Okay, so on the mistake side, again, nothing on this side. And I'm actually just gonna use the same shade. I think we all know that having the wrong color is not good, whether it's too light or too dark. This is the Revlon Photo Ready Candid. I've been loving this foundation. Going in on the mistake side with a dry sponge. You always wanna wet a beauty blender. If you put it on dry, it's going to absorb a lot more product than if it is wet and it applies it nicely. The warm water helps it melt better into the skin and just looks a lot more natural. I'll show you what the dry one looks like. It's not terrible, but it's just not blending out the same way that it normally would. It's just kind of sitting there on the skin. I'll show you. Alright, so I don't want to go to the sink because I'm lazy, so I'm just gonna wet it with a setting spray. This one is just looking kind of dry and dull. This one looks like this happy, healthy, glowing skin. So concealer. One of the main things I see is too light and it shows your under eye circles even more, but also not using a corrector. I feel like corrector is so important if you struggle with dark under eyes. Getting the correct corrector is very important too. Using red on fair skin like mine is not gonna work. If you have a darker complexion, red will work fine, so will orange. But if you have a complexion like mine, you wanna use more of a peachy or light pink. My corrector is from Bobbi Brown and it is light peach bisque. Oh, extra light peach bisque. So you can see there, huge difference. And then I like to do concealer on top. So these are from the same brand, but different concealers. So for the not great side, I'm going to take the All Hours Concealer in 1.5. This one is a lot lighter than my skin tone. And at first it looks fine once it's blended in, but after a while, you just start to see that darkness peeking through again, and you don't want that. In the mirror, I can still see some darkness peeking through. It looks nice and bright right now, but later you'll see it. And then this is the YSL Touche Éclat High Cover Concealer. This one almost looks greeny underneath from what I can see. And on this side, I'm just gonna add a teeny bit of corrector on top, just in that inner part, because that's just where it tends to show through a little more. So powder. I feel like the main mistake with powder is either using too much or not using it at all. On this side, I'm gonna bake heavily and do a ton of powder. I feel like there are certain skin types that definitely benefit from baking, but if you do too much powder and you're very dry, it doesn't always look the best. For this side, the correct side, I'm just taking a little bit of powder on a brush and tapping. If you go in and you start brushing it away, it's going to move the product underneath and you'll get a clumpy, cakey look, and nobody wants that. So with brows, I feel like they're so personal that it's hard for me to even say what things specifically are wrong. I feel like making the arch too far away, so a good way to tell where your arch should be is you line it up with your nose. This is where the front of your brow should be. Line it up to the pupil of your eye, the black part of your eye, and then that is exactly where your arch should be. I feel like a lot of people tend to take it further over than it needs to be. Okay, so we've gone too far over here and we haven't really filled in the top at all. So by starting at the top, that is where I personally have the most sparseness. And we're gonna check to make sure the arch is in the right place. This is actually my bad brow, so, or not the bad brow, I guess, but just the one that causes me the most issues. Just with the top, it looks a lot more filled in. I'm just gonna fill in the bottom there. Even without filling in the bottom, it already looks like a nice arched brow. This one just looks kind of scary. So another makeup mistake that I can't really do in here to show you is a well-lit room. Like wherever you're doing your makeup, make sure you have some good lighting. So helpful rather than trying to do your makeup in the dark. Believe me, it looks completely different. Once you get into the car and you pull down that car mirror, you're like, just make sure you're doing it in front of some good light. I feel like daylight is the best one that you can get if you can't get some sort of a mirror like this or just some good lighting. So let's move on to eyes. One of the main mistakes I see is just putting on a concealer and not setting it. I feel like if you set it, it's usually okay. There are a lot of artists that disagree with it. It's not my absolute favorite to do, but whenever I see someone that does it this way, it's always creasy by the end. It never lasts well. So on the good side, we're putting on the MAC Pro Longwear Paint Pot in Soft Ochre. So we have that on. This is an older palette, but I love it. It's the Naked Heat palette. They killed this one. This is my favorite Urban Decay palette that they've ever made. I'm just gonna set down the primer a little bit with Chaser, which is the second shade in. Usually I would use a smaller brush to set it, but this works just fine. One of the main mistakes I see is not going in with a transition shade. And it's not that you like have to go out and buy a transition shade, like a single shadow for it. You can use your bronzer as a transition shade, and bronzers work great. We're gonna go in with He Devil, the shade here. That blended actually pretty fine. Like I said, these shadows are great quality. I really enjoy their shadows. Another thing I see is people bring it too low. So you want to keep it about, see where this lash line is? Imagine it continuing up and you want to keep your eyeshadow above there. I see this all the time, people bringing it down too low. Let me show you what happens when you use a transition shade. So we are going to go in with Sauced here, the third shade in, and it doesn't have to be perfect. It just helps everything blend together better. I feel like a lot of people see using more shadows as being more complicated and being less blended, but let me just tell you, the more shadows you use, the more blended it's going to look. So now we're gonna go in with He Devil, that middle shade, and I'm keeping that low. I don't want to bring it up too high, just keeping that right in the crease area. We're going to go in with En Fuego, which is this dark reddish purpley shade. So this one, we're not really focusing on keeping it up, focusing on that downturn, but you can see that makes my eye just droop. And you can see it creates a rounder shape for my eye. So you can see this side, it looks droopy, it's a little too dark for the eye. This side, it is blended, it's lifted, and it looks just a lot better, frankly. Now for the shimmer on the lid. So spraying my brush for the good side, I am going to be taking this shade from Makeup Geek called Grandstand. It's a single shadow. This just helps smooth out the shimmer so it's not as frosty. For the other side, I'm just gonna go in with a dry brush, and I'm going on the shadow that wasn't wet, and also going too high with the shimmer. Now for the lower lash line. For the good side, I'm just taking He Devil and smudging it out on the lower lash. It just helps the eye look more open and rounder, and I'm just gonna blend it out. Moving on to this eye. A big mistake I see is people still lining right where the lash is, which I'm actually gonna do it with liquid eyeliner so you guys can see, because I see this too. Please stop doing this. I'm just going right next to the lashes. So you can see that just like cuts off the eye. It's not a flattering look. This way it's a lot softer, makes the eye look more open. This just closes it off. I don't always wear eyeliner, but when I do, I'm just gonna show you guys what the mistake is and what looks good. So the main mistake I see is not going right next to the lashes. So there's usually a space, or people typically close their eyes, they scrunch it up and try and line that way. and they miss right next to the lashes. There's that space there in the lashes. That is not a good look. So I'm gonna show you how to get in close to the lashes. So what you're gonna do is almost press it onto the lashes and just dab it instead of just going straight in, trying to go straight across. Things tend to get clumpy, it's not straight. For my eye shape specifically, I don't like to go all the way in because I find it closes off my eye, and I like to thicken it up right here just to make a rounder looking eye shape. Another thing that I find makes a huge difference is putting a lighter shadow on the inner corner. This is called Shimma Shimma by Makeup Geek. Popping that on the inner corner. Another thing I see is people doing a really frosty shade under the brow. I think a matte shade under the brow looks nice, but this, I feel like this was really big in the early 2000s. It's not the most flattering thing now. The main mistake I see with mascara, I'm just using my trusty Voluminous Lash Paradise, is not going right to the root. So I just see people going on the tips, which doesn't fill in your lashes well. Over here, starting at the base, wiggling up, you get a much thicker lash and it takes a lot less time to apply mascara. Now, another mistake I see is not applying powder to the rest of the face, so I am just applying that on here, just a light dusting of powder. When you don't apply powder to the rest of the face, it makes it a lot harder to blend bronzer, blush. We're gonna use Soleil 1 by Laura Mercier. And one thing I see is people going really low with their bronzer. Hopefully you can see it's not as blended because we don't have powder there, but it's just messy, not blended, not the best look. So here, you do want to be on the cheekbone, stop about here. This side is a lot more lifted. The cheekbone looks a lot more snatched. This side, the cheekbone looks like it's taking up a lot more of the face. So this creates a little bit more of a fuller cheekbone. Another thing I see is people not blending their bronzer right. So they do it here and they don't blend it into the hairline, which I like a teeny bit just to blend everything together, but you want to go into the hairline. If you're blonde, I know that's a little bit harder because you don't want orange, so what you can do is just hold your hair here and do it that way. But you can see this is a lot more natural, helps blend the bronzer into the face rather than this super dark. Makes my forehead look like it's kind of dented in. For blush, placement is important, but the right color is also very important. Mistake that I see a lot of people make is having a blush that is too dark. And a good way for you to know if your blush is too dark is it looks like a sunburn. Just simply put. This one is called Tawny, which actually tends to look pretty good with my copper hair, but with this hair, it looks like a sunburn. So just taking that on a brush, I'm just going to apply it right on the front, which some face types, it looks great on them, but for mine, I don't love it. Oh my gosh, I forgot how dark that is. Whoa. Okay, I'm gonna blend it because we're not gonna pretend like no one blends anything. So you can see it's right on top of the cheekbone and it looks like a sunburn. The right way to apply, I am going to take this color by Bobbi Brown called Coral Sugar. It's one of my favorites. And we are just focusing that on top of the bronzer, starting on the outer part of the cheekbone, bringing it out. And this one's a good shade. It's not too light, it's not too dark. My cheekbone looks nice and lifted. So I'm gonna take Champagne Pop. You can get this in a single. I just have it in this palette and my single one broke, so using it out of this. And on the good side, what we're gonna do is just put it on the highest part of the cheekbone. Just right up there, helps make the cheek look lifted. Now, for the other side, I'm going to take Prosecco Pop. Not that this is a bad color either. I think it's a little dark for me now, but this one I am putting right on the apple of the cheek, which I used to love this look in high school. You can see it creates almost like an unnecessary fullness. My cheek almost looks a little bit swollen. Now we're moving on to lips, and I'm going to be showing you the same colors just applied differently. Some people, when they've done this type of video, they underline them, but let's not pretend. Overlining, especially when it comes to real life and you see someone with super overlined lips in real life, it's not flattering. And let's not pretend it is. So we're going way underneath and over top. And then on this side, just going right on the line. You can go a teeny bit over if you want to. This one is a little bit more natural and much more believable. This one, I'm gonna take Cream Cup by MAC. And on this side, I'm gonna blend it into the liner more. So you can see it's a nice lip color. It blends in together nicely. This side, it's not blended in. It's way too overlined. Alrighty everyone, so that is the end of the video. I hope you guys enjoyed this makeup do's and don'ts, and I hope you guys learned some things from it, and hopefully it helps you guys with your makeup routines as well. And just another disclaimer, in no way am I trying to makeup shame anyone. This is just for people that want some tips and tricks with their makeup. So I hope you guys all enjoyed the video, and I will see you in my next one.